2 weeks until Election Day, as we see polls showing it could be a barn burner in some races as those races tighten across the country. For the latest poll numbers, let's bring in media strategist and pollster Justin Wallen. Justin, welcome to the National Desk.
Morning. Thank you.
Early voting well underway across the country right now. This could be a record turnout for a midterm election. So which party benefits from a larger early voter turnout? And what about on Election Day? If we see a larger voter turnout, then which party does that typically favor?
Sure. So, I mean, the old saw overall is that lower turnout favors Republicans and higher turnout favors Democratic candidates. Of course, it's more nuanced than that. Turnout is really affected by the issues that are driving the day. Now, what you mentioned before, early versus later, that definitely has a pattern. Early turnout tends to favor Democratic candidates. Democratic voters like to vote a little bit earlier, and later turnout tends to favor Republican candidates who tend to prefer to cast their ballots at the ballot box. We are definitely going to have record turnout this year, and what that means is whoever wins, red or blue, they're going to have a mandate from the American people.
Can we talk about some of the sleeper races and also some of the Senate races? Because I know you're keeping a close eye specifically on Nevada. Tell me what your polling shows for that state and why we could see some surprises.
Yeah, so Nevada has become reliably blue, right? And yet 3 of the Democratic House races are now competitive. The Senate race is in contention. And if we take a look at the race for governor, incumbent governor, Democrat, we see the RCP average showing her opponent, Lombardo, his opponent, Lombardo, up 2.3 points. Now, that's a numeric difference. It's not a statistic difference. 2.3 is within the margin of error, and all that tells us is it's too close to call. But too close is not how it should look in a reliably blue state. What we're seeing there is this undercurrent is becoming an overcurrent of a concern about cost of living. It's the same thing that we saw in spring. It went away a little bit in the summertime, and now it's exploding. People are really feeling pain in their wallets. It's becoming almost existential, especially as we head into winter with winter heating bills. We're seeing that in Nevada. It's a wonderful spotlight on the change of focus on issues, and also the shift in certain demographics that are starting to consider more Republican candidates. In Nevada, we're seeing this among Latino, Hispanic voters who are choosing Republicans more and more.
And let's move to the race for New York governor, speaking of too close, because that race is starting to tighten a bit in a state that is deep blue. Give me your thoughts on what's happening there.
Yeah, I'm from California. You know, a New York governor who would be Republican is about as unheard of as a California governor would be Republican. It is deeply, deeply, deeply blue. And for something to be 6.1 points apart, and that's what it is right now, according to the RCP average, that's too close to call it. Yes, Partisan is in the lead. That is beyond the margin of error. That is a lead, but it is just too close to really call and say that's going to be definitive in the Democratic camp. And again, this is one of those things where the issues have been abortion against the Republican candidate, and the Republican candidate has been pairing with costs of living, and to a lesser extent crime, but really costs of living, and that skyrocketing. As we get closer and closer to Election Day, those costs of living are going to go up. And I see that margin, that narrow gap continue to narrow. It should be wider than that if traditionally blue messages, especially the abortion message, were really punching through.
Also, political analysts watching a Virginia congressional race. It's District 10 between Representative Jennifer Wexton and retired Navy officer Hung Cao. That's turning out to be very close as well. What's happening here?
It is. So I look at this because Larry Sabato looks at it. You know, he's such a respected political pundit and analyst at the University of Virginia. He's looking at it because it also shouldn't be in question. It's in a blue space, but it does appear to be close, and it's a slugfest of these themes. You know, okay, on the Democratic side, the Republican is MAGA, anti-abortion, and insurrectionist, and on the Republican side, cost of living is skyrocketing, and Democrats are incapable of managing that, and to a lesser extent, an argument about crime and public safety. It's a great encapsulation of those two themes just pounding away at each other, and I'll definitely be following that election.
New polling by the New York Times shows a shift in independent women voters to the GOP. In fact, according to their polling, women voters who considered themselves independent favored Democrats by 14 points in September. A month later, to where we are now, that shifted to the GOP side by 18 points, according to their data. Here's an interesting exchange with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Sunday's Face the Nation. Take a listen to this.
Well, on the issues that voters tell CBS News are important to them, Abortion ranks number 7. Up top, economy, inflation, crime, immigration. Was it a miscalculation to believe that the momentum from striking down Roe versus Wade was going to help Democrats? Why not talk more about these issues around the economy?
Well, I can just say this. The elections are about the future. They're about the economy. Everybody knows that. Nobody said we're doing abortion rather than economy, but it's about both. And I can tell you that that issue is very, very provocative and encouraging people to vote across the country.
Justin, some argue the candidates just are not in touch with the American people, which is why we are seeing some of these shifts. What did you think about that? What is your polling showing right now?
Well, I mean, there has been a shift in the landscape. You know, in springtime, we were all talking about a red wave. That's what it looked like. Everything was the theme of voters was cost of living. It was absolutely crippling the American voter. And then Dobbs happened, and Republican strategists went into terror mode because the numbers that they were seeing were that there was a significant concern among voters, among independent voters especially, an increased willingness to vote among Democratic women. So that's real that happened. Now, the shift that CNN New York Times poll shows, that's also real. And the landscape has changed. And we are now, in my opinion, right back to kind of where we were in springtime. People care most now about costs of living, the economy, inflation, and that's what's driving their decisions at the ballot box. And traditionally, like it or not, voters have viewed Republicans as being better stewards of those issues than they've viewed Democratic candidates. So the Democratic candidates are continuing to push away on abortion. That issue, while important to voters, is not anywhere as important when coming to cast a ballot as cost of living.
Right, and specifically women voters, because that was the point the New York Times was trying to make with that.
They've shifted, and look at that shift from favoring Democrats by 14 points to favoring Republican candidates by 18 points. It's a massive delta there. And that's really what we're seeing. And that's only in the course of a couple of months. So it's dramatic.
It is dramatic there. Pollster and media strategist Justin Wallen, we appreciate you coming on with us this morning. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.